members. So today we are going to start the procurement process. The procurement unit is taking the first training session. Before I invite Pade to start his training, let me invite Dr. Slim Nadi to give us an opening remarks. Dr. Slim, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shitu, and everyone else, and for all of you being able to attend this webinar meeting. Uh, I don't have to spend a lot of time, but as you know, procurement is one of the backbone of the fiduciary issues in any organization. And for some of you who may be familiar with it, any institution like AFAS, which doesn't have a strong fiduciary process, and so on, you are disqualified from getting any aid resources. So it is usually what they call conditionality. Is a conditionality that you have to have a procurement unit and a competent procurement personnel with all the guidelines that must be approved and endorsed by the stake, well, especially the board and any donor that is giving you money. Procurement, and you'll note it sooner or later, is there's a difference between a personal procurement, like me, when I'm going to buy something from the shop, I just sample here and there, or if I go to the nearest shop and I buy whatever I want. But institutional procurement has processes and procedures that must be followed before the purchase is done, whether of services or goods. And these are usually really embedded in what I think the procurement guidelines and so on, and procurement processes and regulations. And it's a process usually which starts from a general work plan and budget and so on. Then some of it is translated into procurement and so on. But of course, Paddy will talk about it. So it's a very essential process to satisfy a fiduciary system and fiduciary requirement of an organization. And often it is also audited very rigorously, because it is where, like we know, where misprocurement can occur and losses can occur and so on. So those are usually really a process that need serious auditing, but also follow-up. And that's why at times some of us or some of you or whatever, they complain of the process. It takes long, it's cumbersome, it's bureaucratic and so on and so forth. But still, it is an essential necessity that at least some basic processes have to be followed, and steps must be followed. So I welcome you to this capacity development, so that at least you familiarize yourself with the basics, and so that you understand and try to follow as much as possible. And of course, constant backstopping and guidance can be provided as we proceed in any of the procurement processes, whether internally or with our stakeholders. So back to Samson. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salim. That's opening remarks and also very important guidance how this procurement is very important, especially to our work. Since we have started also the CADEP XCP4 project implementation, again, this is very important training, and it is also timely. So in terms of few housekeeping rules.
Samson, can I just also add here, sorry to interrupt a bit. Like you mentioned, Simon, you know, we have had this capacity gaps assessment and so on and so forth. And a lot of recommendations have come from it and so forth. And therefore, a lot of capacity development processes and training and so on will be conducted over time as we proceed, of course, with guidance from Samson, who is responsible for capacity development. And therefore, you'll have to bear with us. Maybe some areas you'll be familiar with, others not, and so on. But and some of the capacity development will be done internally by our own very competent staff, and others will be outsourced from where we don't have competency from outside. So that's it. Sorry, Samson, to interrupt.
Okay, thank you very much. No problem, Dr. Slim. Yes, that is very important note. So as Dr. Slim also said, I mean, this training is going to be a series of training every 2 weeks. And as I said earlier, this is going to be using our own internal capacity or human resource just to kickstart. And also whenever it's very essential and important, we are also inviting external people based on their expertise. So this is not going to be a one-time activity. This is going to be a series of activities, especially when we are living within the COVID time. Whenever we are through this COVID epidemics, the pandemic, then we'll be organizing a face-to-face training in future. So this is going to be the first training. Again, for the first time, especially the first training and the second will be relying on the secretariat staff. But out of the third session, you will be also organizing your, training based on your experience, based on your expertise and so on. And please also get prepared whenever you have any interesting topic, which is still related with what we are doing in agriculture extension and advisory service. Please be prepared. Let us know in advance so that we can also always include and incorporate also that training. We are expecting a lot also from the ground level. So with that saying, so just few housekeeping rules. So this training is going to be 1 hour session and would like to make it a participatory. So whenever you have any question during the training time, please raise your hand and I'll recognize you and will bring it your issue and comment, suggestion and question. So as much as possible, we'll make it participatory. And again, if you have any questions or comments, suggestion, please post the chat box, then I will scan through the chat box. I will monitor that. So please, the rest, mute yourself. Whenever I give you a chance, you will unmute and you will start talking. So with that few remarks, let me invite Pade. He's a procurement unit officer who will be leading us through today's training. So Pade, over to you. Pade, you are muted. Please share your screen and start talking.
Thank you, Samson. I think I'm now there.
Yes, it's coming. Yes. Please put it on slideshow.
And then.
Yes. Yes, click on that. Here we go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Yeah, by the way, next time you have to put the EU logo. Otherwise, if they catch you, you're going to be in trouble.
Okay, thank you. This is the presentation from the procurement unit. And specifically, it is going to address the aspects on of the procurement process. I saw the bigger topic present as brought out by the program manager that it would include evaluation. Honestly, no, it will be too much for the 1 hour period. So today we are just going to look at the procurement process generally. My training later will come up with other specialized subtopics, especially evaluation roles and responsibilities to enable the practitioner, rather the people who do the work, the evaluation and so on, and the various country forums and data first, understand how it works. But for today, we shall focus on the procurement process. My names are Grace Padewanzali again. I'm the procurement specialist for AFAS. The presentation will cover the following 11 steps, but it will have some information which will come as a background to enable the sub-grantees, especially the CFs, to understand why the process. So the process is having 11 stages, but briefly we shall look at the principles, why the procurement process, then the essential documents for the management of procurement at AFAS and at the country forum levels, and then who is responsible for the preparation of the plans, and then in the details we look at the procurement process. Those steps are enlisted, so as we move on, they will be seen and what we do at each stage. You will be free to interject at any time to get further guidance, and where possible to add value. What are the basic principles, therefore, of public procurement? The principles in our manual, which we are supposed to follow under our sub-grantees, are as follows. One, we have to observe a principle of economy and efficiency whenever we buy services or goods. The first thing we have to look at is economy and efficiency. In terms of economy, we are looking at the appropriate cost. Efficiency, that it will do the job, it will be effective. So looking at those two principles, it does not necessarily mean that you buy the lowest price. Economy may not necessarily mean the lowest price. So people at times get lost into price and leave the right quality. The second principle is that we need to be equitable, fair, and where possible, and as much as possible, open. That's why open competitive bidding is the most preferred method to obtain bidders. Because money comes from different donors somewhere, they expect an organization that has got a grant to be fair to all bidders, including those from outside countries, and that can only be enhanced through open competition. So as much as possible, we need to always open up. The other principle is accountability. You need to be accountable in the way you use the funds. That is direct. I don't need to explain a little more. Transparency in the procurement process means that whenever you are dealing with any procurement aspects, in AFAS, for example, and or with the donors, you need to be transparent. And that can also be tested by the donors coming to inspect your procurement files, and they find every information that pertains to a particular procurement on file. On my side, I always tell people that we can combine accountability and transparency easily. That the moment, or even if you made a mistake and you put up the information and put it on file, and you acknowledge that this, we recognize that this was a mistake, but for never to happen again, it's not a crime, because you have known and you have opened. The biggest problem is once people see mistakes, they hide. Instead of coming out and say it has been recognized and this will never happen again. Maybe the only problem is to happen. So the AFAS principles and procedures in this manual are mainly designed to meet these principles. So our manual is designed in such a way that these principles are met. So when we are buying for you as a user, as a country forum, try as much as possible to see that whatever we are doing is within the principles. We need to be accountable. We need to be transparent in the way we do our things. We need to be fair. We open to many people outside there. We need to buy with the economy and
Hello, Paddy.
hello. Then the other thing that
My
is
connection
clear.
or you are breaking?
I'm connected. I'm breaking. Maybe internet problem.
It is okay. You are very clear. I don't know. Maybe you have a problem, something.
I think
Okay.
Samsung's internet.
Okay. The other aspect that needs to be taken care of, especially by the staff, that the essential documents for management of procurement as listed in our manual are the following: that information trickles from the strategic plan. So in a way, the items that are in the procurement plan will be linked to to the strategic plan. We have always taken concern about the grant agreement with the funder, with the donors. That's why at times we go and find out what are the ineligible expenditures. The moment you bring a procurement which is ineligible, as per the grant agreement, of course, we shall advise you and say, no, we can't proceed with this because we shall be caught on the way. The budget for the year is always very important, the annual budgets. Then the annual plans that are developed by the program teams. And then and where we have capital budgets, capital plans, and so on for organizations that are able to do either constructions that move across beyond 1 year, etc. They can have the capital budgets for their projects. Now, how does the blue thing, which is the procurement plan, come in? The procurement plan is key, but it is an extract from the activities that you have listed in your annual plan. So the annual plan should enable us get the activity, rather the procurables that we shall be able to undertake during the year. The other documents that are key is the operational work plan, the host country agreements, and then the operations manual. For this presentation, I'll focus mainly on the procurement plan, maybe later zero on the annual plans. Who is responsible? What is the responsibility for the preparation of the procurement plan? Incidentally, whenever we are in office, I always see everybody looking at only Paddy. Paddy, where is the plan? The responsibility is that the ED is the overall coordinator in the drafting and integration of the work plan, the finance budgets, and the procurement plans, and is supported by the heads of departments as per our manual. So the procurement plan is prepared by the procurement unit, but in consultations with all the user departments. As we go in details in the process, in the stages, you will be able to see what the user does to enable the procurement unit develop this plan. Now, the overall responsibility for procurement planning, therefore, hello? Are you getting me? I'm hearing
Yes.
Reflections. I don't know whether it is
Go
enough
ahead.
fast.
No, we are getting you. We are getting you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The overall responsibility for procurement planning rests upon the executive director, me as the procurement specialist, the head finance and administration, because there are issues related to finance in the budgets, and then the budget holders who at the present would be the users of AFAS. So having this overview, we can now go down and try to dissect what we do at each stage of the procurement process. In summary, the procurement process begins with planning and identifying organizational needs by the project teams. But we note that there are a number of steps that are carried out by the various institutional structures. What are the institutional structures in AFAS? For example, we have the executive director, who is also the accounting officer. We have the program teams, whom we can refer to as either heads of departments or programs. Then we have a procurement unit. Then we have the evaluation committee, which we shall discover that it is ad hoc. It only comes into play depending on the skills required. And then we have a procurement awards committee, which approves procurement in AFAS. So as we move down, those are the institutional structures in AFAS. This eventually concludes with a review of the performance of the contract, that process. So all the steps to be carried out in the procurement are laid out in the chart on the next slide. So I just want to glance one chart, and then you see the process we pass through. Let me hope you are seeing the whole thing on the screen, eh? Sorry?
Yes.
Is it seen on the screen?
Yes.
So stage one, when you see stage one, where I've pointed the cursor, sorry, when I point the cursor, the thing moves. When you look at stage one, you have the procurement plan and budget level, which is stage one. And then stage two, colleagues, I don't know why the thing is moving. When you go to stage two, it is for making the statement of requirements, the terms of reference, and the scope of works. Those are just abbreviations. So when you see in the middle of the chart, wherever you see purple, it is a responsibility of the user department. For example, in AFAS, it is a responsibility of program. Where you see yellow, the procurement unit is my docket. Where you see green is the executive director. Procurement awards committee is blue. And then the board has a red. And then the evaluation committee, which is ad hoc, has some green area, which you are going to discover that is only in one area, which is around 10. That's now an evaluation committee. Now, when you look at the cycle, it begins with the planning and budgeting, responsibility of the user. Stage two goes to making the specifications, the terms of reference, and so on, a responsibility of the user. When we go to step three, you have raised your requisition, you have submitted it for approval or to confirm availability of funds. Finance will do its duty. In most cases, finance does it because it is delegated. However, if it's not a delegated function, the accounting officer will do that. For the case of AFAS, we do both. The accounting officer confirms after getting assurance from the head finance that the money is available. That's when he signs off that requisition. So the duty there now moves to step 4, where the procurement person is supposed to help you do the review of all the terms of reference and the specifications and so on, identify the procurement method. How shall we evaluate? Of course, we do this through various interviews between the user and myself. That's why you are seeing 2 colors there, that the user must work with procurement to see how this is made good. So don't just send in your terms of reference and say, I've done my job. You might have brought terms of reference that are deficient. Go and discuss. So we should have a kind of collegial relationship when we are handling these aspects. Then from there, the procurement method is supposed to be approved and the solicitation documents by the Procurement Awards Committee. But because of the heavy work and so on, we shall always be bundling them. I will not say step 5 alone and then step 7 alone. All of them will always be consolidated into one thing, such that all approvals are done once rather than having multiple approvals, because it takes time and it kills initiative. Then from there is preparation of the documents and then the approvals. So that's why I'm saying reviewing specifications and making the solicitation documents, the calls and so on will all be approved once. Now from there, the next step comes in, which is advertisement or invitation for bids. In our case, we are now using mainly online, but where we have money, we need to go for papers of wider circulation to show that actually we are inviting the public. Then when we receive the bids, we record them. There is a record of receipt form and a record of opening, where we have those hard copy bids. We put up a record of bid opening, where they are electronic and so on, it's merely printed and registered. Evaluation is conducted. Then reviews of the evaluation report and recommendation of award, signing of the contract by the ED, contract management, and then monitoring, and then contract review. So in details now, in summary, I want to show the key words that govern each area. You'll discover that the board in procurement, its role is only to oversee and approve the strategic documents, the way our manual was developed. The executive director is the one who authorizes and is the one who represents the organization on all procurement aspects. Procurement Award Committee is the approver, and in some situations, recommend award to the executive director. The role of the procurement unit is mainly to prepare and review. The role of the user department is to initiate and evaluate. Then the evaluation committee assesses and recommends. So these simple words at times in our organization are overrun. You can meet a program person doing some work of a procurement unit. For example, the one can run his own advert. He issues the requisition, the terms of reference. So my thinking is let the role players do their roles. What is in procurement planning? Procurement planning in simple terms is the determination of the future procurement needs of AFAS and the timing of their acquisition and determining the source of funds. So the user department, using the approved budgets, is supposed to prepare a departmental procurement plan for the user department and submit to the PDU. Then on the basis of that, procurement unit will now make an annual procurement plan for AFAS using the user departmental procurement plans. Why is it necessary to develop a procurement departmental plan? Not all procurables may appear in your work plan easily seen. So it is you who may extract out some of those aspects. For example, we have been lingering with translation services, translation and so on. There is no way you can read in our annual work plan and see translation. So it means that in my procurement plan, it's not reflected anywhere. I can't know that you require it. But you can come out and say, within this service, I might require the following services, and it prepositions the user department, rather the procurement unit, to say, okay, if we created maybe a long-term agreement or a framework for translation services, then the user will be able to get these services as and when he needs them. So a strategy is developed depending on the information that I am given within your departmental procurement plans. In that respect, I propose that since you have now got some light, at the beginning of every year, it is important to have the departmental procurement plans extracted from your annual plans. Or you look at my procurement plan and then tell me what is missing that we may require, and then I design a strategy. Then the procurement unit, each financial year, prepares that annual plan, which is consolidated. The user department should note the following: that once the procurement plan is approved, it is like a guiding tool. What you need to do is, in case you have another procurement, but you forgot it and it was outside, the best way is to notify the procurement unit, and I make a review or a change in the procurement plan to have it, and through the executive director, internal approvals are made, and that revised procurement plan now becomes the current procurement plan. Why is that necessary? To all donors, no procurements are allowed outside the procurement plan. That's why we call it at times, you look for retrospective approvals from donors. That's why at times they might say in a regular expenditure, you did not plan for this, how did it come in? So to avoid all those issues, it's better to notify the procurement unit and the procurement plan is reviewed. That's now at stage 1 of planning. Now in stage 2, which is initiation of procurement, the principal document that we have, which everybody is in the know, is the procurement requisition, which we call Form 5. It is the one that kickstarts the implementation of the procurement plan. And who actually initiates it? It's the user department that initiates it, and it must attach the terms of reference, the specifications if it is goods, and all bills of quantities if it is works. In our case here, we are mainly dealing with specifications and terms of reference. So what could be the conditions in this? This requisition gives a description of the requirement in terms of a consultancy service or supplies. It brings out at one point the estimated value of the requirement, and I'm advising that this should always be based on the market price. You try to scan the market and be able to come up with an appropriate price. If we started operating electronic systems and you had done a software for procurement, and they approved the requisition with, say, $2,000, and now you want to buy something of $3,000, the system will not accept. You will have again to go into another internal processes, approvals, until the money is increased to cover the contract or the purchase order. That's when the system will accept. So because we are operating manually, we take these things lightly, but it can delay the process and frustrate you as a user. So undertaking market research is very important. 3.
Paddy, maybe before you proceed, there is a question from Uganda, from UFAS. Who is heading the user department at AFAS? Can you just respond for that so that then you'll continue?
Looking at AFAS currently, a user department would be the programs. For example, we have capacity, institutional development. Samson, you are a department. There is a budget and a work plan that you man. We have Andre in knowledge, management and ICT. We have finance and admin. There is a head, that is Kate. Procurement is a unit, although when I want now any procurements, I have to pass through finance because I am only one. You requisition yourself and So when you come, you look at the country for us, the country for us can be a user within the procurement system. ED is also a user because there is ED's office. So I don't know whether I've now segregated this properly to know who a user department is in the context of procurement.
So yeah, the user departments are many. It's not just one in an organization.
There are some organizations which operate differently. For example, there are some NGOs that can think that one person, you look for procurement, but you go to one person, maybe administration. So you may even put in your requisition and nothing is brought to you. While in our model, by the time we put up our procurement requisition, all the items have already been planned and thought of. So there is no chances of a procurement not going through because you thought through. Unlike those NGOs where you can go with a lot of wishes and they buy only one. So in ours, it is many users. I hope I'm clear. Confirmation,
it's okay.
Confirmation of funding must be done by the ED, as I said earlier, but at times they delegate this function. In our case, ED does it, but he gets reasonable assurance from the finance department that the money is available. That's why in your requisition, we are insisting that you must tell us the activity, where you are getting the money, to enable finance detect very fast whether the money is available under that code. So all users, whoever is filling a requisition in that area of activity, you tell us the activity code and the sub-activity to understand where to charge the money. Then the procurement requested must be reflected in the procurement plan to avoid retrospective procurement. Next, step 3, choosing a procurement method. This is very critical. So colleagues, when you prepare your requisition and you have your terms of reference, don't be tempted to saturate it, because as far as technical issues of procurement are concerned, you may not know which method to use, and you just saturate terms of reference when the procurement method to be used is not detected. That, in my opinion, might, if a bidder somewhere there, a consultant bidding, reads it, he might not know, but internally, if you get a technical person, he will understand that there is a gap within that organization that is saturating this information. So leave the issues of determining a procurement method to the procurement unit. Then, what makes me choose the method? I'll look at the estimated value of the requirement. I'll look at the circumstances pertaining to the requirement. Is it required very quickly? Can we go single source? Can we go via framework? So depending on the explanations that you have brought out, I'll look for an appropriate strategy to enable you get the requirements. Then the type of procurements, whether supplies, works, or consultancy. Now, the following are important things to note. These methods are important. One, that there is open, domestic, international bidding. There is also restricted, at times we call it selective bidding. There is micro procurement, and then there is procurement for consultancy firms and stroke individuals with or without publication. So there are some situations where we may require publishing in papers. When I say with the publication, you must advertise out. When I say without publication, we may just ask for a proposal straight or a call, and somebody brings an expression of interest straight, and then we use it and award you. So there are ceilings that are required to be met, which you will discover as we move down. Direct procurement method can also be used on addition to the other methods. But before deciding to use it, you must ensure that you explore all options of using the most competitive means before you reach the direct procurement. Is it true that under restricted bidding method, you can't get it? Is it true that under request for quotations, you can't get it? And or using another competitive method? Then after exploring that, that kind of thinking, you now agree that yes, we can only use now direct procurement in this method. However, there could be other reasons, like for example, you have been seeing in several consultancies, where we say that it is a natural continuation of similar works, and we are just extending, we are just adding some scope or some time on that contract, or even having under new funding a new consultant. And we say, yes, we recruited him under RMP, but because the works are a natural continuation under CADAP, we use direct or single source, and then we proceed with the contracting. So this responsibility of the PDU to determine the procurement method is usually done after aggregating the requirements. So when you are submitting your departmental procurement plans, avoid splitting requirements. Splitting requirements, you might see somebody talking about one computer in quarter one, another computer in quarter two, or another, that kind. In AFAS, we are lucky we have not seen this kind of situation, but if it was a big ministry or a department or what, you would easily see this. Each small unit looking for its own small stationery in microwave, but when you aggregate, you see a lot of money. Then the procurement awards committee is expected to approve the procurement method. Then we have to consider the circumstances pertaining to the requirement if we are to use the direct procurement method. Using our manual, the sample thresholds are here. For example, we were implementing the RMP, rather the MDTF2, and then IFAD, and then our manual. When you see they are all linked. When our manual was being developed, it was developed on the premise that World Bank was the funder. So it was made in such a way that it would satisfy the requirements of the funder. Now, IFAD is almost similar. When it is open international bidding, when a value of the goods is above 500,000 US dollars, it is open. So when you look at row one, it does not apply to AFAS because even the whole funding does not make $500,000 in a year, the budget of a year. So we do not follow anywhere in row one. Now, in our manual, we have the second lower bidding method, which is open domestic bidding. And this one is for contracts between $50,000 and $500,000. I have not seen any contract since AFAS started of this much. Maybe it might come once, but most of our procurements are under the shopping method, which is below $50,000. So you will discover that when you go now approved procurement plan, you will always see in the goods national shopping. And why that method? Because of the threshold. Now there is below, there is a category of publication of expression of interest. Once an expression of interest is above $100,000 for firms and above $50,000 for individual consultants, it must be open. In other words, you have an advert of an expression of interest in the papers. Most of what we are using now is without publication of expression of interest. We are just saturating. You use your website and so on, and you tell them this is the call, these are the terms of reference, because all the procurements are below $50,000. Next is the preparation of the solicitation document. The solicitation document is nothing other than, for example, for goods, we make a simple request. Hello?
Okay, sorry, before you proceed, in case if there are any questions from participants, shall we just pause here for a little bit?
Okay, we can pause, I think, because it is better. People will forget. By the time I reach step 11, they will have forgotten step 1.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Any question? Any questions or any reflection so far? Are we clear in terms of the basic principles? And
Samson, mine was not answered, and then you said Andrea was going to answer it. I don't know.
What was that?
Okay, because that was very specific in relation to CADEPEX before. That is why.
No, I think it can be general. It can be general. I was saying that because you talked about where you have to publicize, and then I asked that the publication costs catered for. And I said, for example, it's just an example under the CADA P4. And how do you handle such? Because you have a consultancy, and then maybe it is 5,000, and then you have to publicize. How do you handle the publication costs, like putting in papers and all that? That's what I was asking.
Okay.
I think I can clarify there. I can clarify.
Wait, before you respond for that, take note of that. And let me also give a chance to Professor Dele. Take notes. Please unmute yourself. Okay, Beatrice, we have taken your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Prof. Dele, please go ahead. We can't hear you, Prof.
Hello?
Okay, wait, Pade. Prof. Dele, you are muted. Please, if you have any question, please. I think maybe your mic is not working. Please post your question on the chat box, then I will bring it. Okay, Pade, would you kindly respond to Pade's, Beatrice's question in relation to publication?
I have I've flashed again the spread, rather the screen. I have the threshold. In this threshold, let me first minimize something disturbing the screen here. In this screen, we are saying all procurements above $50,000, you publicize an expression of interest. And below $50,000, it is without publication. Publication means an official gazette where you publish information. That means money must be paid somewhere, either to a newspaper or to whatever journals for publication. Now, looking at Beatrice's question, the sub-grants, if I'm not mistaken, have never even gone beyond $50,000. So I don't expect any publication. I don't expect any publication. But if it was there, then AFAS must take a keen interest to know that that must be advertised as long as it appeared in the procurement plan of the country fora, and it must be supported for purposes of publication. Are we there?
So my question is that is it part of the consultancy cost? Is it always built in there? Because where do you get that money from? If they say the consultancy is 50,000, or I mean above that threshold where it has to be publicized, is it always part of it, or the organization gets it from somewhere else?
The organization looks for that money.
Okay, that's what I was.
But this is a yardstick to know which method to employ.
Okay.
I hope you have understood.
Thank you. I think that's now. Okay, go ahead now.
The preparation of the solicitation documents, again, is a responsibility of the procurement unit. If it is a country fora, if I'm to add in, would be a responsibility of the CF focal person, because he's our procurement focal person at the country for a level, which must be approved by the Procurement Awards Committee. So what happens there is that because most of our procurements are very small, I've given an explanation on only those small levels of you prepare a call for expression of interest, for a consultancy service, and or a request for quotation for supplies, because our procurements are in shopping level, shopping category, and all simple expressions of interest. So here, the call is prepared by that person. It is now joined with the terms of reference that were made by the user, because the procurement unit is now communicating the procurement language to a provider out there. They are the ones preparing that solicitation document. It will indicate the method of evaluation. It will indicate other aspects that are important, which to adhere to. That's why at times I say you will adhere to the IFAD procurement rules and procedures. In this case, in some other cases, I will say the FAO. In other cases, I will say AFAS procurement rules and procedures, depending on what we are buying and who the donor is. Now, the statement of requirements are then reviewed, modified as may be required at this stage further. But of course, this is always in consultation with the user. I see some gap here. How do you address it? I contact you and the solicitation documents are done. Now, in the bidding methods, the rule in our manual is that there is a publication of a bidding notice, which must be published in at least one newspaper of wide circulation. Honestly, we have failed to abide by this reason. The money at times is not there. So at times we use one.
Beatrice,
then
may you kindly mute yourself?
Which one?
I'm just asking Beatrice. Beatrice.
There is a reflection somewhere, but I don't.
Okay,
then
go ahead,
development of the shortlist. Development of a shortlist. The manual requires that at least 3 bidders must be invited to ensure competition. We can also source from other sources and get at least 3 quotes. For example, we have a register of providers, an official publicity register of providers that can be used, even using some knowledge on the market, where at times people just know that who is specialized in printing. They can say graphic system, New Vision, and so on, and look for at least 3 firms, and they compete. Then at times there is direct invitation of a sole or a single provider. It's also acceptable in our methods. Now, look at these minimum bidding periods in our law. When we are using open competitive bidding, we need a minimum of 42 working days for a bidder to bid. That is how many months? Around 2. National competitive bidding, 30 days, that's 1.5 months. Restricted and or selective tendering, 30 days, that is 1.5 months. Now, our area of where we operate most is the quotation method and the shopping method. The minimum is 7. That's where even these other individual consultancies and so on fall. That's why at times when you come with requisitions and your terms of reference and you say you want this provider in 2 days, at times I refuse and say, honestly, we need to abide by our rules. We are the ones who drafted them and the donors approve, but we are jumping off. So what I always do, I say, no, let us make at least 7 or 10. Because even if I make it more, I am within the rules of the game rather than having 2. So colleagues, plan properly and avoid looking for a consultant in 1 day, looking for a consultant in hours, just like we see. Bid issuing. I hope you have seen this, sorry, You have seen the minimum bidding period, colleagues. Emphasis, what should go in your heads is a minimum of 7. If it is a single source, that one is okay. It can even move in 2 days as long as a justification is there. But individual consultants, for example, colleagues, avoid 1 day, avoid 2 days. 2, avoid having emails that solicited earlier, then you create a requisition which is ahead of the time you requisition. It doesn't add up. A good auditor will look at the dates and will get the organization. Bid issuing and closing.
Paddy, maybe before you proceed, Prof. Dele would like to share his experience, so you will reflect on that. Prof. Dele, can you talk, please? Unmute yourself and share your experience, yeah. And okay. Paddy will reflect on that. Prof. Okay. I think your mic is not working. So I think, okay, let me bring what he was sharing. So he said that at NIFAS, we agreed that consultancies should be open to members of the CF only because we believe we have capable hands, and as a capacity building for members, it will only be advertised using email and WhatsApp. What is your reflection on that? So this is the experience from
that is at what?
Nigeria. Sorry, WhatsApp and through email.
That they have capacity within the what? Yes. The country fora?
Yes, under the capacity CF, they have the capacity. Instead of advertising to external people, what they're doing is just advertising within the CF members because they believe that they have the capacity, and also they are taking it as part of capacity building. So what is your reflection on that? So other countries also they can learn.
I think because of the internal policy that is created within the CF, it is acceptable because you are seeing in this spreadsheet, in this screen, that even restricted tendering can be done. So you are restricting first the country fora. If you don't see capacity, you jump out. However, the people who are in the management of the procurement function cannot participate because there will be a conflict of interest. Because we might see scenarios where country fora people are actually the one doing. So if you participate in developing the terms of reference, you participate in soliciting, you in the procurement law, you are not allowed again to participate, rather to do that activity yourself. Because you have a lot of information. In other words, you will be unfair to your colleagues. For you, you have inside information, you have a lot of data about it, you understand it, you had time to revise about it, and you are telling people to prepare a bid in 5 days. So it means that you are unfair. The principles and so on will be violated. If you remember the principles we began with: fairness, non-discrimination. There are others that come in, conflict of interest, etc.
Thank you very much, I think, for that submission. This is also a good experience from Nigeria, and Uganda also is seconded on that, supporting this idea, which is good. So other countries, they can learn from this experience. Go ahead now, please. Okay.
Bid issuing and closing process, which is stage 5. Here, you are supposed to record all the documents that you issue out, for example, the bidding documents, and record them in the in the record of issue form. Incidentally, because we are now working across boundaries, across several countries, there is no way people will come to your unit now to look for the document themselves. You are just circulating it, and whoever gets it. So what we have done here is only to substitute with the record of receipt, such that a responsible person, for example, a country fora, or an administrator in AFAS, will get that form and record every expression of interest or request for quotation that is issued. Where they deliver manually, they sign in the manual form. Where they don't, it's the administrator who prints and records for them in the form, including the dates. So bid issuing and closing, I've already explained how it is managed, but you must always ensure that those that bid past the time of submission are not accepted. If it was a manual system, we would ensure we return them to them unopened. But because we use soft copies, we debrief them after evaluation that your bid was not among those evaluated because it was a late bid. And we disclose who the best evaluated or those that were successful at that stage when we are contract signing, we're having contract signing. The bid closure process is managed by at least one member of a procurement unit and shall be witnessed by another member of of administration unit or a person nominated by the user department. So at country referral level, I am thinking that a focal person should have at least another person to witness, depending on their structure, maybe a program assistant or so, such that there is some element of transparency. You see the principles we talked about. If you do things alone, nobody will trust that you are doing the right thing. But more than one brain, we can see elements of transparency. We can see elements of fairness. Receipt and bid opening. When the Secretariat receives the bids, the staff of the PDU will acknowledge receipt. If we have a bid box, we use it. At our first, we are just using a file to record because we have never even made a bid box because we get bids once in a month. So laboring to keep a bid box to only collect one bid might not be really prudent. Now, the PDE fills the record of bid receipt form, which is signed by the opening team. The process of opening and recording is managed by the procurement unit, and you may require another person from another unit to record the bid opening. The other one was receipt. We are now in opening. Information is read out in bid opening, i.e. the name of the bidder, if there is bid security, if there is a total price. However, looking at the methodology we are using, which is shopping, which is individual consultancy selection, consultant qualification selection, the lower levels of the methodologies, we do not read these out. Reason, because in those methodologies, you are not compelled to. The language is, they may be in attendance. We can't call people to come and attend a bid opening of $1,000 and they put in 200,000 to go and look for, just to go for bid opening. So it's illogical. That's why low value procurements, we don't read out. Evaluation of bids.
Paddy,
yes, sir.
I don't know how many slides you have left. If you just
remaining with
do it fast.
Four
Okay.
stages.
Okay. Let's be fast. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Evaluation of bids. This is the process aimed at determining the best evaluated bidder for the expression of interest, for the proposals, etc. What is the purpose? The purpose is to ensure, to ascertain compliance of the bid with the statement of requirement, ability of the bidder to perform the proposed contract, and ability of the bid to meet the objectives of the organization. So what is key here that I want to emphasize? Evaluation is by the evaluation criteria. If you develop the terms of reference and put a criteria, for example, if it is an individual consultant, you put qualifications and experience. That is the criteria that you are using to solicit that consultant. If it is a firm and you are using a particular methodology, maybe consultant qualification selection, and you have put up a table understanding the assignment, how you will evaluate the methodology and so on, experience of the firm, consultants, etc. That criteria that you put in the terms of reference must be maintained at evaluation and at award. So those are the key things there. The others can be read. What are the methods of evaluation for goods? When we're evaluating goods, it is technical compliance selection. What does technical compliance selection mean? What you are buying must satisfy the technical specifications. Whoever satisfies the technical specifications will be selected with the least price. So you may discover that a firm had, for example, the least cost, but again did not pass technically. That cannot be selected. So that's the rules of the game. The other methods for evaluating consultants is now quality and cost-based selection method, which combines the two. You can look at the quality aspects and the cost aspects. Then the quality-based selection, irrespective of the price, you are looking at quality. Then there is a fixed budget where you tell the provider that my budget is $2,000. If you are willing to work within, tell me. Least cost selection, where a person is evaluated is technically compliant, but you go with the least price. Then consultant qualifications is you just look at their CVs, shortlist them and rank them. Whoever is the best ranking is contacted to submit a brief technical and financial proposal. You review it and make any negotiations. The moment you reach an agreement, he takes the contract. He's signed with a contract. Single source selection method, where you go straight to one provider, either a natural continuation of similar work, or somebody did some work and another project, but you are switching to another project which is very small, has a very small period, and you think that seeking out competition will consume time and money. Then individual consultant selection. This is in our AFAS manual, and in individual consultant, it's almost similar to consultant qualifications, but the only difference is here, I may not ask for an expression of interest. I just say, submit to me your CV. And it's only the CV that I look at, and I say, who is the best? I call him for negotiations, and we proceed. So a call for expression of interest or proposal, request for proposal, must indicate the selection method to be used by AFAS. That's why you will always see in our calls that the method for solicitation will either be single source, quality cost-based selection, or consultant qualification selection. The burden of knowing how this methodology works rests with the consultant or the provider or the supplier, because he must go and read the manuals, the relevant manuals, to understand how it works. On the side of AFAS and the country fora, we shall be giving appropriate guidance whenever you require any help. Post-qualification can be done to know whether the provider has not lied. There are some circumstances where we have tried one and we discovered that the consultant was lying, that he did a lot of work in particular areas. So when we post-qualified, we discovered that he was actually lying and he was eliminated on that ground. At times, some people do not have money. Others, after getting a contract, he says, now, how do I implement? Help me with the money and I start. But the donor rules are saying you pay for the service after. So post-qualification helps you to solve all those other problems. So once you go for post-qualification, approval shall be obtained from the Procurement Awards Committee prior to rejecting any bid. So if the best evaluated failed, you have again to report back to the Procurement Awards Committee, and the approvals are changed to the next best evaluated. Award of a contract. At award stage, AFAS communicates the best evaluated bidder or the consultant. So the procurement unit debriefs unsuccessful bidders and all consultants. So why am I saying in this bullet that on our side, we are always doing this? Today, in public procurement, all bidders have understood and consultants that they have a right to get information on where they failed. So when you do, for example, evaluations at your program level, and we don't have any information, and the provider comes up for a debriefing, it means that we don't have anything to give him. So at the end of it all, it will be the image of the organization that will be tinted. This organization awards contracts haphazardly. For example, recently we had a procurement where a provider came and sat here and he said, I want to know the reasons why I failed. I just printed the summary of the evaluation report, gave him, I did not even answer him any single word. He nodded his head and went away because information is available. Procurement unit eventually submits a recommendation for award to the contracts committee, or rather the procurement awards committee after completion of evaluation, which must state any additional requirements, the contract price, the payment terms, and advance payments if at all needed. Then at contract design, there are so many contract types that are available. But when you look at our first contracts, they are mainly in two areas. One, in lump sum. Most of our contracts, 99% are lump sum contracts, sealed with a fixed amount of money. However, there are other types of contracts. For example, framework, which we are using in supplies and other aspects, but the rest, cost reimbursable, target, retainer, contingency, percentage, and measurements which are used in works, we have never used. So for purposes of this presentation, let all country forums and so on adhere so much on lump sum and framework contracts. Procurement award committee should always approve the contract type to avoid any legal challenges. Contract management. In contract management, this involves for goods, it is the receipt, inspection of goods and order. For services, consultancies, the approval of deliverables, etc. What happens there? Upon signing the contract, the accounting officer is supposed to appoint a contract supervisor to monitor the progress and execution of the contract. The good thing is that in AFAS, we do it even before contract signing. The terms of reference indicate who will be the contract supervisor, and even in the contract, it is reflected. So in AFAS, we do not need to go into appointing at that stage because the accounting officer signs off, automatically the one in the contract becomes the contract supervisor. What does he do? He's responsible for monitoring all payments to the provider, responsible for submitting reports to the procurement unit, procurement awards committee, to ED, for example, monthly reports, progress reports, quarterly and any evaluating performance against approved work plans and the procurement plan, communicating any anomalies to other technical staff, managing contract amendments, variations, and change orders. Let me re-emphasize in that bullet. I have seen many situations where people will ask me, why are you not terminating this contract? It's not procurement to terminate a contract. Who initiates the termination? Is the contract supervisor, gets approval from the accounting officer, and my work is only to do the necessary paperwork. So I can't be a cook and again eat the food myself. So I'm emphasizing that bullet. Managing contract amendments, variations, and any change orders is a responsibility of the contract supervisor. But remember that all contract amendments must be approved by the Procurement Awards Committee. Performance review, which is the last stage. The procurement unit assesses compliance to the quantity, quality, and delivery periods that were given to the supplier. We do the monitoring of progress of work to ensure the milestones agreed are achieved. And in most cases, I monitor through reports. So if you don't get me progress reports, if you don't get me any communications within your process, it puts me at a weak point to understand how the contract is moving. So user departments ensure progress reports and or any minutes and or even linking me to the discussions of what is happening at a certain stage at every stage would be advantageous. Like we had capacity gap assessment, many stages we were in. Although I was not making any contribution, I would get the feel to know where the procurement is and what could be the hiccups. And when I print an email and put on file, I am able to add some words to create evidence. Contract review meetings to review the performance and identify the contractions that can be taken to correct any deviations from the contract plan is our responsibility. However, note down, the termination of a contract, if any, must be approved by the Procurement Awards Committee. In other words, it should come from the contract manager in session. A submission is made to me. I write to the ED, who is the accounting officer and the overall responsibility. Once is in agreement, we make our submissions and submit them to the Procurement Award Committee, which will approve the termination. And then the termination letter is now signed off by the accounting officer. So at the accounting officer level, we go there twice. So termination is not as easy as making a contract. Lastly, contract variations is a change to the price. So those who are doing contract management, if there is a change in price, if there is a change in completion date, if there is a change in statement of requirements, that will always be referred to as a contract variation. So if it's an amendment to a contract, the circumstances are like this one. A change in the terms and conditions of an awarded contract is an amendment. For example, I am not adjusting anything to price, but I am saying amending to extend time. So it is a no-cost extension. I have amended the contract, but does not cause any change. All contract variations must be issued with the approval of the Procurement Awards Committee. And contract amendments shall not be issued to a provider prior to obtaining approval from the Procurement Awards Committee. So in either case, whether it's a variation in price, whether it is an amendment in the contract, there must be approvals in the Procurement Awards Committee. Why? There could have been delays in supervision of the contract by you, the user, causing the delays. So the Procurement Awards Committee needs to know. Otherwise, if they are extending time and the problem is internal, why don't they look for ways of correcting it quickly? So those are the kind of things. So the Procurement Awards Committee is like an internal control tool within the process. You are sure that there is somebody to get me on the way if I'm doing something wrong. And the few challenges that I have listed down as per the discoveries in our implementation of work, there are times we delay the preparation of the terms of reference and the specifications, and you come in one day and the following day you want a consultant procured. At times, non-adherence to the principles of public procurement. What does that mean? Either you have not done it competitively, or you have not been fair, or you solicited even your CVs somewhere, and it is insinuated as if they are of offers. So that can happen. Non-adherence to the principles. Inadequate contract supervision of recent in consultancy. Hello?
5 minutes. Let's wrap up.
This is the last slide. Inadequate contract supervision. In some consultancies, we have no progress reports, but I'm happy to report that in the recent procurements, especially under CADAP, these procurements are moving on well. Lack of knowledge on stakeholder roles, which we shall do sometime ahead. I'll make a presentation on roles and responsibilities, and then evaluation specifically to the stakeholders that do evaluation only. There may be conflict of interest while performing one's duties, and payment terms are allowed at times is not suitable for smaller procurements. What do we mean here? The procurement is of 500,000 or 2 million or 3 million, but the payment terms we are saying 30 days net. There is no economic value to a provider, he might jump out. And my last word, it is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you very much, Paddy, for that really comprehensive and informative presentation. And I think this is really enlightened us what's all about procurement and what are the processes and stages to be followed. What are the issues to be considered, especially under each stage. I think that is very important. So definitely these slides will be shared to all of you. You get this presentation and you will be sharing also to your procurement unit or with the finance unit. So that will be very helpful. So ladies and gentlemen, so this is the first training that we kicked off. And in fact, we planned it for 1 hour, but it goes beyond because it was very interesting. So I think, guys, I mean, would you kindly also reflect or share your thoughts, or what are your impressions, and especially what are the key take-home message for your CFs from this presentation? And also, I would like to hear also your reflection in terms of time allocation. So we are thinking of to have 1 hour training session, but personally, I'm feeling that this 1 hour may not be enough. So let me hear your reflection. Please raise your hand so I can recognize you. Any question or any comments, suggestion, especially how you are going to apply it in your CF. Any comments, suggestion, please raise your hand. Can you hear me? I just want to confirm, as you know, my connection sometimes is...
Oh, we can hear you, no problem.
Okay. Any comment or any suggestion? Would like to hear your experience, especially from the CF. Yeah, so Beatrice, okay, go ahead and Beatrice, go ahead. I recognize you, you are muted.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Pade. That was a very engaging presentation. Even as non-procurement people, I think we could really pay attention to the end. But I think there's an issue which I think we can discuss as CFs. He talked about the issue of having to, for example, advertise and all that. And most of us, the CF, I know that we concurred with Nigeria, but even as people said, we are a pool of professionals. If something comes up, and then you are going to look for an external consultant and their capacities within, then they feel that why are they really coming in to associate? They are people, they are members, they pay their membership fee. And then when an opportunity comes in and they have the capacity, then the procurement requires us to look for a different person because it would be like there is conflict of interest or something like that. I don't know whether he can actually, because for us as CFs, members feel that's why they come in, they can contribute. But if there's an opportunity, because we don't pay them, some of them actually commit their time and we don't pay them anything. And then when there's an opportunity and someone is actually very capable, and then you're saying because of procurement, we have to look for an external consultant.
Okay. Thank you very much, Beatrice. I think this is well taken. And as we have said, as long as we have the capacity within our CF members. So what's important is we need to follow the procurement procedure to avoid any queries. That is what Pade was saying. As much as possible, let's avoid a kind of conflict of interest, because where you prepare the TOR and again you bid yourself. So as much as possible, try to make sure that you follow the procurement procedure. Otherwise, this is well taken. It's like a form of incentive for CFs and also building the capacity of our networks. So that is well taken, but make sure that we follow the procurement procedure. I think that was, the explanation from Pade. Otherwise, we don't have any objection because the money is very little and we don't need to look for external consultant as long as we have the capacity. I think that is, we are in agreement. So this is well taken. Yeah. So
maybe what can be done, because the mother organization that is giving you the grants does not have it in its manual, the way you are stating it, you need to look at your internal systems and have a minute, either by your CF, that we shall first be restricting within the internal capacity of the CF. And if it's not there, then we jump out, such that there is a minute somewhere that still backs you up. But the principle is who develops the sums of reference, who manages the procurement process, should not be part of the bidders or the people that are competing for the consultants.
That's good advice. That is good advice. Always good to keep a record so that you are playing within the internal rules and regulation. That is a good suggestion and submission. So are there any comment from other countries? Any suggestion or reflection from other countries? Okay, I don't see any hands. So I think, ladies and gentlemen, so how do you feel in terms of timing? So initially we were thinking of having like a 1 hour training session. So as I can see, if we make it more interactive and participatory, we may think of having like beyond 1 hour. I think still, depending on the topic that we are covering, still let's keep in our mind between 1 hour to 2 hours. So as much as possible, we'll be more focused, but we need to ensure the participation and also involvement from the trainees of the participants. So I think with that, especially Paddy, from my side, especially when we are organizing the next training, it's good also to think about how to develop good TOR and what are the elements in the basic TORs and what are the issues that we need to consider, especially for our CFs. This is very important.
Okay.
That is my personal feeling. And
now, I can comment before you proceed.
Yes.
Procurement is a profession which you do for over 3 years. But we try to summarize in 1 hour or 2 hours. So you will discover that will be a small topic of statement of requirements, a topic. There will be a topic of evaluation, and there might be a topic specifically for contract management, because I've given you only one slide on what you do in contract management, but that's not enough. So contract management will be understood at a little enlarged, in a little enlarged form. So we shall be moving slowly, but I'm thinking that I'll present in the total of 7 topics to finalize my procurement lines properly.
Okay, thank you very much, Paddy. And please also you share this slide, just reply to the email which I sent a reminder so that everybody will get this slide. I think with that, So before I hand over to Edie for his closing remarks and reflection, so I would like to announce you also our next training session will be after 2 weeks, which is going to be October 15th. And the topic is still we're discussing internally. Most likely it will be coming with ICT and knowledge management related. Topic will be communicated. If not, then in relation to monitoring and evaluation. We shall discuss this internally and we'll communicate the topic. But please book your calendar. The next training session is going to be October 15th, and the topic will be communicated through email and through WhatsApp group. So with that, let me thank once again, Paddy, for your time preparing this slide, very important. And this really enlightened us in the areas of procurement, the procedures, and the steps to be followed and so on. That's very informative presentation. Thank you for your time once again. Then with that, thank you also for your participation. Let me give the chance to Edie to say a few words.
Thank you
Do
very
you
much,
have
Samson.
anything to
And,
say, Ibrahim?
thank you very much, Paddy, for that very wonderful and very comprehensive presentation. But like you said, procurement training takes 3 years, but you have gone through it maybe 1.5 hours or so. So, but still, I think we got the gist of it and how it can be done. And I would urge anyone who's involved in procurement, if there's any additional questions that as you move along in procurement, you have some uncertainties, please don't hesitate to contact us and specifically Paddy on how to move with it. Because, you know, like he said, he quoted, who was that, Darwin? It is people who change, who evolve, who survive most. So not intelligence or strength. So you can only evolve by being adaptive and being questioning and so on and so forth. So let me thank all of you and look forward to the second capacity development and training program. So thanks, Samson, thanks, Paddy, and thanks to all of you. Okay, bye and have a nice day.
Off-nya kok gua, gitu. Tadi gue ya. Oh gosh.